All right, let's go over the age-old question of should I be buying real estate or should I be renting real estate? This question is so broad and there's so much behind this question and behind the two answers that I'm gonna try to go over today. There's so much to think about. And obviously it's case by case. Some people it's better to rent, other people it's better to buy. Obviously there's so many factors to this, but I do wanna go over both of them, the pros and cons to both of them, depending on your situation, to help you make the best possible decision that you can. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh Murdick with Real Broker. I'm a local realtor here in Calgary, if you didn't already know that, and I love to help you guys out in the buying and selling process. If you guys find value in this video, I'd love if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments how I did on this video. Good or bad, I would love to hear it. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, first let's go over renting and the pros and the cons to renting. I think a lot of people, when they think about renting, all they think about is that they're throwing their money away and that they're just giving the landlord this free money and free cash flow. Now, while that is true in some sense, there is a lot more behind renting that we kind of got to think about to get that whole picture of what you are really putting your money into. So the pro for renting is one, flexibility. So when you own a house, obviously you have a big mortgage and you have big payments. Renting, on the other hand, you have the flexibility of, pretty much moving whenever you want. Obviously, you got to give the landlord some notice, but for the most part, you have way more flexibility. And if you're someone that doesn't like to settle down somewhere or you're always on the move, then renting is most likely your best option. And number two of why renting is sometimes better is you can get all of the utilities included in your rent. Now, this depends on the rental contract and the landlord, but a lot of the times you can negotiate for all of your utilities to be included in your rental agreement. And now this is great because especially with those utility bills going higher and higher, and honestly, we never really know when that's going to stop. It probably never will because prices never seem to go down in the long run. But that's another great thing is you can have all your utilities lumped into your rent so you don't have to worry about, if it's freezing cold and you're on a budget, you don't have to worry about that electricity bill being a little higher that month because of course it's included in your rent. The third reason why renting might be beneficial for you is that there are so fewer upfront costs for one, and two, ongoing costs for things like appliances or paint the walls or new flooring, whatever it is. Upkeeping a home can be super expensive. And when you're renting, most of the time, all of that stuff will be included in the rental agreement for the landlord to take care of. And another side note to that is carrying a mortgage. And as some of you probably know or might understand, is carrying a mortgage can be super stressful. And so that's another thing is when you're renting, you don't have that stress of looking at, your 30-year mortgage and thinking, holy crap, I have to be paying this thing for 30 more years or whatever it is. When you're renting, let's say it's month to month or even year to year, whatever it is, it can be a lot less stressful depending on your financial situation. And that could, potentially be a lot better for you. Another con for renting would be stability. If you're someone that's looking for stability and somewhere that you can call home officially for the long term, then renting can be kind of risky, especially if you are on a month-to-month lease. And the reason for that is you are basically at the mercy of the landlord. They can pretty much tell you with a couple months notice that you gotta pick all your stuff up and get out of there and figure out where you're gonna go next. And that can be super stressful, especially for a lot of the people that are just, living paycheck to paycheck. It can be super hard. And so that is another one of the disadvantages to renting. Along with the fact that your landlord can increase the rent. Obviously there's rules to this, and I'm not exactly sure what the landlord's laws are in Alberta, but they can increase the rent. It's a certain percentage every year, and I'm not positive. I'll pop that up on the screen after editing this video. But that's another thing to consider is, rent can increase, and you don't have to have too much of notice for that either, which can be very hard. And the last disadvantage I want to go over when you're renting is the lack of equity or wealth that you can build within that place, because obviously you don't own it, so there is no wealth to be built there. Whereas if you owned it, there would obviously be some equity that you can build in that place. But like I said in the beginning, as long as you have that plan in place, then that's totally okay. And, just make sure that you have that plan. So we've gone over the pros and cons to renting a home or apartment. Now let's go over the pros and cons of buying a home or apartment and see which one works out best for your situation. Owning a home can feel very unattainable for some, but with the right plan and strict financial planning, it is possible no matter what your situation is. So let's first go over the cons of buying a home. The first and most obvious disadvantage to owning or buying a home that we kind of went over when we were going over the rental process is the cost associated with it. There are so many costs associated to buying a home, whether that's the closing costs of just buying the home and all the lawyer fees you have to pay, or the upkeep and making sure that everything is running smoothly, or the mortgage payments that you have to pay on a month-to-month basis, along with all of the utilities. It adds up very quickly, and I think most people that don't already own don't really realize how much that actually is. So that is the very first disadvantage to owning a home, and it can be very stressful to have all those payments, especially if you are financially in a bit of a tough time right now. Along with there being a lot of costs associated to owning a property, there is also not any guarantees that you will make your money back when you decide to sell it. So whether that's 5 years down the road or 30 years down the road, there will never be any guarantee that you will be making money on that purchase. Now, the longer that you wait to sell it, obviously there is a higher chance that you will recuperate your money and some. But like I said before, there will never be any guarantees in real estate. Another disadvantage or roadblock for some people when buying a home is the fact that your credit score can highly influence what kind of loan and interest rates that you get on that house. So if you have a not so great credit score, there's a pretty high chance that you will either not get approved for the loan, or you will have a much higher rate than what the average credit score would have. And that could be a big deterrent for those that don't have that great of a credit score and would like to rent until they can build that credit score a little more. So we've gone over the pros and cons to renting and also purchasing a home. I hope that gave you a little more insight on the decision-making process and what is best for your situation. And I just kind of wanted to quickly go over a few generic scenarios just so that you get a better feel of what you should be doing. Not that there is a wrong or right answer, but just putting my input to help you make that decision. So let's say you are in school or just graduated, you have a 9-to-5 job that pays, decently well, but you do have a lot of that debt from going to school. If you have a lot of debt, typically it's not a great idea unless you have a lot of cash flow to be buying a house. In my opinion, it's better to rent and like I said before, have a super solid financial plan in place to get out of it as soon as possible, and to reduce that debt from schooling as soon as possible. But that's what I would do in that situation, is probably rent. And then as far as buying, let's say you are a young couple in your late 20s, early 30s, you both have stable incomes and you've paid off all, or if not most of your debts from school, or you have little to no debt, and you have a well-paying job and a decent amount of cash flow, then that is when I would probably say that owning a property and buying a property is your best course of action. But like I said at the beginning of this video, there's so many other factors and there's so many different things that can contribute to the decision that you make. So I don't want to make it sound like one decision is better than the other, because it all comes down to your individual situation. All right, well, that is going to be it for this video. I hope that I gave you a little more insight on the decision process and helped you a little more along the lines of what is the best course of action for your individual situation. But anyways, guys, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Leave a like and a comment if you did enjoy this video and you did find use out of it, and I will see you guys in the next one.